All right, guys, welcome back to Boost Come in Pairs. This may be our last one for a couple of weeks. We are expanding our roster over here in our household. Elena is getting induced tomorrow night, or today for some people if you're listening on Thursday. So we're going to take a minor hiatus. We'll be ready again for the start of the regular season, and we'll see how tired I am and how strung out I am.
Some shorter shows maybe.
Yeah, but you know what? We still want to talk baseball, and that's the whole point. We still want to provide the avenue where, I'm still watching games, and I got to do something while I'm sitting up with baby boy here. But big news of the week was Matt Chapman, right? Signing with the Giants for a lot less than he wanted per the Scott Boras. But this seems to be the new deal he's doing. I feel like the Cubs kind of missed out on that. I feel like it was an affordable price. What's your first initial thought of Matt Chapman going to San Francisco?
Initial thought is that that was really where I thought he was going to be. Yeah. Was San Francisco reuniting with Bob Melvin, his former manager. When we had Jessica on, she kind of said the same thing. She was kind of feeling the same way. At least she was hoping that he would get reunited with Melvin. It really makes sense for the Giants. They're kind of one of those teams where if you're trying to figure out what they're aiming at, you think that they would be trying to compete. And especially with signing or bringing Melvin on, and kind of moving on from Kapler. Was Kapler their manager? Yeah. So it really makes sense to them. He's returning to the Bay Area. Feels like home to him. It's where he played most of his career. And the Giants are an interesting team. I don't know how well they're going to contend in the NL West, but it's a good start. I do think the Cubs missed out, and I think what's going to end up happening, assuming no one makes a major breakthrough when it comes to these young guys, they're going to be searching for a third baseman at the deadline. And they're going to have to give up prospects to do that. Getting Chapman at what works out to be about $18 million a year. His contract is spread out a little bit differently. I think it's backloaded $20 million, but he has similar opt-outs to Bellinger.
I think it was 3 years, 54.
54. Yeah. Which comes out to $18 million a year, but I think he's getting like 16. 18 and 20, something like that. But he has opt-outs in his first 2 years, which is very advantageous to these guys. They can test the open market if they see fit, or they can just collect the really nice paycheck that they get if they want to stick with the team and they like where they're going. But yeah, for Chapman, I'm very happy for him. For the Cubs, I'm a little bit disappointed because it's still a big question mark. And at least with Chapman, you're going to get some power and you're going to get a great glove. And that's more than I can say with what they have currently on the roster. They have no one who's proven in any of those things. So that's kind of where I'm at with Chappie. And
I'm on the same wavelength. I think what you're going to end up doing if you're the Cubs is you're going to sign a guy like Matt Chapman at the trade deadline or trade for him or whatever. And like this would have just cost you money. And you might have inched closer to that luxury tax, which is whatever. If you're going for it, it does not matter. But I was talking to a Giants fan this week, and he was not super excited. He goes, this is kind of a blah move, especially when your expectation has been set as let's try and win the World Series. He goes, Bob Melvin is not exciting. He's kind of just, he stabilizes the ship. Okay. Signing Matt Chapman, he's not an offensive juggernaut, and they need offense. And he's like, yeah, defense is great, but, he's not going to provide that jolt. So he was not super. He goes, it's fine. It's better than nothing. It's better than Evan Longoria. But like, he goes, That's all he did was like whatever. So it's interesting. Yeah, again, I wish the Cubs would have done it just because they're probably going to make that move trade deadline. But I think we're limited also to only one Boras client signing per week at these deals. So next week will probably be Montgomery or Snell or whatever it is, for less money probably, because that's what Boras is doing. But these opt-outs are interesting because I don't think Chapman opts out of his deal. because he might not perform. Like, he didn't really perform for Toronto. Defensively, yes, he won the Gold Glove. But Bellinger, he probably will opt out, whereas Chapman might opt into the end of this deal just because it's not what he wanted, but it's better than what he might get. Ask Marcus Stroman, But
the crazy thing is for Chapman is that he turned down an $100 million deal. He turned down a very big contract, guaranteed money to test the open market, and it didn't pan out for him. We kind of said it last week on the show that $20 million is still a lot of money. $18 million is a lot of money.
Yep.
$15 million is a lot of money. It's more than enough to live the rest of your life on.
Yep.
But, I mean, these guys took risks, and I don't think it's going to pay off for them, which really stinks for them. But I mean, if you're the Cubs, like, yeah, it's a bummer as fans that we didn't get to add another Gold Glover to our infield. That would have been very exciting, intriguing. They're already one of the best defensive infields in the game. Adding Bellinger and having our crazy up the middle combo, but that would have been just insane. But I think that this move, you're kind of waiting to see what Michael Busch is going to be. You're waiting to see how fast Matt Shaw can ascend through the system. If these guys, you end up moving them to another position or moving on from them, not so much Shaw, but Busch you might move on from because he's not really a Cubs guy that they drafted. Alex Bregman's a free agent after this year, I believe, and teams are already interested in looking at him. I would not be hurt if they went after Alex Bregman in free agency.
The crummy thing, and I'm not saying April baseball doesn't matter, but remember when Mike Olt was starting at third base and blocking Kris Bryant, and we're like, oh, like, what are they doing? They want to get that extra year out of him. I think they're just going to take April and see what happens and put some pressure on these guys, and that stinks. I hate that. But They have like 6 options. So, like, all right, because they're basically saying Nick Madrigal, they put him at second base the other day. They're not giving him a shot at third. He's a utility piece right now. It's basically Michael Busch. You're right. How fast can Shaw get here? And then we'll see if they are in contention, which again is not where you want the Cubs to be. Are we in contention? Yes. Okay, let's buy at the trade deadline. No. Okay, let's sell the only assets we have. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be trade Cody Bellinger because he's going to opt out, which is what we were going through last summer, and which I don't like. I don't think the Cubs should be in. They should always be buying, right? Always be getting better. Always be going for the World Series. But here we are. Here we are again, doing it again. Other teams not necessarily going for it. We've highlighted the Red Sox, how they've been frustrating. But now today you get the news with Lucas Giolito. Not that we were confident. Anyone was confident in Lucas Giolito. He was not a premier offseason signing, but now he's got UCL, MCL, everything in his elbow exploded all at once probably. He's got some inflammation. But basically, he's not going to start the season. Verlander's not going to start the season. There's a couple, and so anyone in our fantasy baseball league, you're welcome. This is why we don't do the draft 2 weeks ago, and we will wait as long as we possibly can so we get all the TJs out of the way from the early spring and give you the best chance to draft. But there are 2 pitchers out there. For teams that need pitching, the Red Sox, the Cubs, apparently Houston now needs pitching. Do you see the Red Sox going for Snell, Montgomery, anyone left?
I see Montgomery in their future, and that has been one of the biggest kind of rumors in the offseason. Like, the Red Sox, even before Giolito went down, have been very high on Montgomery, being a lefty, being tough, being able to pitch in those high leverage situations. He pitched in New York, so he knows how to handle all that, the scrutiny and the fans. He would be a really good fit for them. I really do see them ending up with him. I don't see Snell so much. I think Snell is going to be more of like a West Coast guy. I see him staying in California. There's been rumors that the Angels are interested. I wouldn't go there if I were him. But they also have said that San Francisco is another destination, which could be good. I mean, he's a Washington guy, so him staying on the West Coast would be probably feel more like home to him. And I feel like with Melvin running the ship over there, maybe your buddy who's a Giants fan would be excited about that.
Same thing. He said, like, he won the Cy Young in a down year. And that's my opinion, too, is that Blake Snell in a year where guys are winning 20-plus games does not win the Cy Young. But just because of he was pitching 6 innings, he doesn't go long into games. He walks a lot of batters. Yeah. And he just happened to avoid a lot of that traffic on the bases to keep his ERA down. But he was not pitching deep into games, and the Padres were not winning. So I would think in a normal year when you have someone running away with it, that's very dominant. Because Justin Steele was up there too, and the Cubs didn't even make the playoffs. So what does that tell you about how the pitchers in the National League were actually pitching last year? Not as dominant, but also with the emergence of the bullpen, like, they're just not as important. So it's so hard to gauge a Blake Snell. It's hard to say where he would go. I would add him to any staff. Would I be excited about it as a splash move? That's tough. If you have a good rotation, I think he's a good piece.
He would be the best number 2 in the league.
Yeah. Yep.
I think. But I guess kind of going back to the Giants a little bit, like, so what is exciting? What kind of move could the Giants make that would be exciting for your buddy or Giant fans? What could they do that would be like, oh my gosh, like we did it?
The problem is, and it's the same with our Chicago Bulls, is what is the core? What are you building on here? And right now he's like, there's nothing, like, because he goes, when we were winning, we had Crawford, Brandon Belt. We had Buster Posey. We had we had Tim Lincecum. We had Matt Cain.
Sandoval, Matt Cain.
Bumgarner. Like, that's your core. You had a solid core. He goes, right now it's just like, who's been there? Brandon Crawford's gone. He goes, it's not built to win long term, right? They may get lucky and put together some wins, but, like, it just isn't a team that's going to be a constant contender. I think that's his thing. And you know what? That's where, as Cub fans, we should be too, where it's like, we want that 2016 core, right? We want that, like, we feel like we have a chance to win for the next 10 years.
And their minor league system isn't that great either. I don't think they have a lot of, like, they don't have a loaded system or with top prospects all in that top 100. So yeah, it is kind of interesting how they are where they are right now.
Also, fun fact, I don't know if you've seen this meme going around. There's a circle where it's like teams that have hit a home run in spring training. And it's like everyone is circled. And then the Cardinals are over here, and it just says no. It's like yes, and then no. The Cardinals have not hit a home run in spring training.
Oh my gosh.
2 weeks in. And we were talking with Jeremy about how they need more power, right?
Yeah.
Well, I know it's spring training.
That is crazy.
But it's also spring training. Like, there's pitchers that are not going to pitch.
No, but, like, they have, like, Goldschmidt and Arenado and Jordan Walker, and, like, they have some guys who have some power.
Spring training is the time where you see some 10-run innings because guys are just working stuff out or just trying to get through stuff. Zach Jackson had a horrible inning for the A's the other day, let up 5 runs in a third of an inning. That happens because it's spring training, and the ball is flying out of the park.
Yes.
But that's just very funny to me. Is that
that is funny.
We've spearheaded some of these topics of, like, oh yeah, the Cardinals need more pop. Here it is. Hey, Matt Chapman.
It's like we speak it into existence.
Yeah, Matt Chapman's going to go to the Giants. Existence. There he goes. Brandon Crawford's going to go to the Cardinals. There you go. See, we are
the Rangers are going to win the World Series.
Yep, we're pinpointing it. Okay, well,
we need Belly. We need Belly. We've
been saying that for 6 months, and here he is. Well, another topic that kind of came up with us because he spoke out about it. And maybe we'll speak this one into existence. Kris Bryant seems unhappy in Colorado. Ooh. And I think Colorado is also unhappy that he's there because he hasn't played. But I think we knew that when he signed that deal, is that he's spending 7 years to not win because the Rockies have been to the playoffs 5 times in 30 years. That is not a winning franchise. So Kris Bryant, unhappy that he's in Colorado. What are the chances you think he gets moved at some point?
I think the chances are good, and I think that the Rockies will have to eat a lot of that salary. But it's so unfortunate because you love Kris as a guy. You know what he's capable of. Very special things. When he was in his younger years, it was very hard pressed to find a more dynamic guy in the game who could play infield, play outfield well, hit for power, hit for average. One of the best base runners in the game. Just had that killer instinct, that clutch gene, or situational gene, however you want to look at that. But yeah, seeing guys like that, and I kind of am reminded of like Troy Tulowitzki, just a guy who's just so insanely talented, like generational type talent, who just cannot stay healthy, and you get deprived of just the greatness that they are. And I'm hoping for Kris's sake that maybe a change of scenery will help. But the injury bug doesn't follow you because you're in Colorado. The injury bug follows you because it follows you. Like sometimes you just get hurt all the time, and that's the way it is. I don't think it's a lack of motivation, but like one of the things he said in that interview was that he has been kind of surprised that the trajectory of the team, like there's not much there. There's not much going on. There's not much coming through the system. And it's like, well, Kris, like that's kind of the way it was when you got there. You haven't been there for that long. And they do have some nice young players. I mean, that Bretton Doyle in the outfield, Nolan Jones, they do have some really nice young players on that team. But again, they're in the NL West as well. It's a really competitive division, and they play in Colorado half the year. So it's really tough. It's a really tough place to win.
And they wasted Todd Helton's entire career. Like they had one of the best hitting first basemen in baseball for 17 seasons and won nothing. And you had Larry Walker. So like, what were you doing? He just signed a bad deal, but you're right. He's been hurt. He was hurt with the Cubs. That was part of the grievance with like, man, we can't sign this guy. I remember he tripped over third base and rolled his ankle. And it's like, that sucks. Like it's just a freak accident, but it's like, it seems like these freak accidents happen to him a lot. I think if he's healthy at the trade deadline and hitting okay, not even great. I don't even think he's going to be, he should hit 50 homers at Coors Field. He won't. But if he's hitting okay, I think a contender looks at him and says, yeah, come play. Can you put him at third base though anymore? Like, is he a first baseman only? Is he an outfielder? He has not played third base at Colorado at all.
No.
So what do you do with him?
You know what sounds funny? And I'm going to bookmark this episode if it happens. I can see him in Atlanta. I can see him in Atlanta doing something and getting energized. He would look good in a Braves uniform. It just seems like it makes too much sense.
If it makes too much sense,
I don't know.
If it makes too much sense to us, it's probably going to happen. I could see that. I could see them like they did it with Jorge Soler. It's like, hey, this guy can hit. We don't need you to be everything. We just need you to be something. And then he goes out and he wins. Like, did he win the World Series MVP for them?
The Cubs?
No, for the Braves.
For Soler, yeah, he did. Like, I think so. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure he was World Series MVP.
That's one of those things. Like, you get the guy in the right situation, all of a sudden he's playing meaningful baseball again. He's a talented player. I remember his rookie cards were going for like $70,000, like the autograph ones, because it's like this guy's going to be the next Bryce Harper. This guy is, that good. It's like, okay, but like you're right. We've been robbed of his back of his career because he started out so great.
Yeah. Just
the trajectory of what he was doing from Rookie of the Year to MVP. And I didn't even think his numbers were really that great. But it was because he was so young and, the prospect of what he can do. But yeah, Colorado has just been a train wreck for him. And that's a horrible organization. We heard, about how some of these other organizations can help you become a better player and help you to get to the places you want to go. Colorado is not the place you want to go if you want to win a World Series. And if you're Kris Bryant and you're 33 years old, you should be in your prime. You should be in your prime winning years. That is not the place to be. He said he regrets signing because there's probably other offers that were coming, but he was impatient. He just wanted to sign and be done with it. Well, you are done with it, and
You got it.
you're essentially trapped there until you have a healthy, productive way out. So, because no one's going to trade for him if he's hurt. No one's going to trade for him if he's injury prone. And he's not even, that's the crazy part. He's not even playing third base right now, and he's still getting hurt. So,
yeah. Lots of back issues, too. Lots of back stuff.
He's a tall guy.
He is. Just 6'4", 6'5".
You see that with basketball players where their feet are bad or, the bad backs. Rizzo battled a back the whole time he was in Chicago. I think about once a year, it flares up, and you hope it's not in October, right? So it's just something you deal with, and it's hard. It's hard to go out there every day and perform. And his height is definitely part of it. That's why he's successful, but it's also, sometimes you just have a bad back. Yohan Moncada's been dealing with that. I know the White Sox are incredibly frustrated with his production, but he's like, I don't even know if I was going to play baseball again because it's debilitating. So, bad backs are not fun, but it's just, again, it's one thing after another sometimes with these guys where it's like, all right, ankle, back, shoulder, and then you get hit by a pitch and now your elbow's out of whack. And it's just, there's so many things that can go wrong, and it just seems to be compiling on him.
Yeah. And then you have guys like Bryce Harper who have like major elbow surgery, and then you return like 6 months after, and you learn a new position, and you lead your team to the playoffs and do really well. I don't know. It just, some guys just know how to battle through things. And that's kind of how it is.
I think it's unfair to compare injuries like that though, because you don't know, but also like Bryce Harper can smell the World Series when you're on Philadelphia. We were sitting here going like, there's no way the Diamondbacks beat them. They're way too good. And then the next week we're eating our words because, they just lost it in like 2 days. But that was part of his motivation. They were so close last year. They were so close again this year. And Bryce Harper's like, I want to win. And now he's a first baseman. Now he's like, I don't even care about the outfield. Like, let's just put me where I can be productive. And it's probably going to elongate his career if he can do that.
For sure.
But, well, speaking of needing to be relevant in baseball, the A's unveiled their new Vegas stadium.
The Opera House.
I was going to say, it looks like the Sydney Opera House and a combination of the Sphere. It's kind of cool. I like it. The thing, though, when you build a stadium like that, and it looks cool, it looks like they have the backing for it, great. You cannot put this current A's roster in that stadium. You can't put a clunker in there. You need to play well, and you need to have competitive baseball. Otherwise, people are not going to enjoy that. Opposing fans might go to like check it out because it's Vegas, but like same with the Raiders are a brand, but like I feel like the Raiders need to also win. Just win, baby. Well, same with the A's. You need to put a better product on the field to match that pretty cool stadium on the strip there. That kind of solidifies that, but what are they going to do the next 5 years? Who knows? But I think the concept is cool. I like the layout. It has a roof, which you need in the desert. Any thoughts to that other than it's cool to see it finalized?
Yeah, concept is super cool. The idea of having another professional sport in Vegas is I think it's needed. These big cities that have huge fan bases, it's a cool thing to introduce. But what I'm still unclear on is, and the city of Vegas has been pretty open about this, is that they don't want a baseball team. They're like, they keep proposing this Vegas stuff, but like it's not set in stone. There's no guarantee that Las Vegas is going to have a team. So they keep coming out with all this cool stuff, but like it's not guaranteed. Like, why don't we work on trying to find somewhere to play for the next however many years, rather than throwing all this smoke out at fans? Like, it's just frustrating more than anything, I think. The players are just playing. They're just going to play wherever they get the chance to play. But it's like,
we know how baseball works. I don't know if you saw the video board of the renderings. I'm sorry.
It was like on the ceiling.
It was on the ceiling, but no, Aledmys Diaz is not going to be on your roster in 2028 when you go to Vegas.
I thought it was Zach Geloff. I thought he was.
Diaz is on the roster somewhere, but like he was on the list. Geloff is your second baseman, but Aledmys Diaz is your third baseman or shortstop or whatever he is. But like, none of these guys are going to be in Vegas. We know that because the Aces also turn over their rosters so quickly. Even if you do perform well, you will be traded. Or if you're going to make $2 million next year, you will be traded because you're too expensive for Oakland A's. But I think if you're going to go to Vegas, you need to pay for it because basically they're just saying we're not going to pay to fund your little play area here in Vegas. You can buy the land, you can build whatever you want to build on there, but it looks like they have a partner in this. So it's not just. Yeah. I think that you're right. The city of Vegas is like, we are not interested in adding this, but if you want to build it, I don't think they're going to oppose because why would you not want another major sport in a major gambling city on top of major entertainment? That's just it. Again, one of these things would be our catchphrase. It makes too much sense, right, to not have a baseball team there. And I know we'll talk about it when they solidify more stuff, but some of the other areas where they're looking at, I also need to read an article. I need to do some homework. So maybe when I'm in the labor room, no, that will not be what I'm doing. But as they further A stuff, I think you're right. I think they need to focus, and Rob Manfred's kind of made this a point. They need to focus on where are you playing next year? Where are you playing 2 years from now? Because you have 4 years until you're in there in Vegas. What are you doing?
Yeah. And again, it's fair to the players more than anything to have top-notch facilities, a place where they can feel comfortable, a place where they can perform. It'll be interesting to see. But there are teams who are very successful who play in almost less than what the Athletics have now. Look at a team like the Rays. Like, I guarantee their facilities aren't top notch. That ballpark is falling apart. No one goes to the games, but they continue to win. So that organization is one of the most confusing that I'll never figure out. But it is a blast to watch those guys play.
That's an organization like John alluded to. They don't connect to the city.
No,
they have a great organization in terms of baseball. The attendance, it just doesn't. If you're going to move a team, Tampa deserves to be somewhere else because they have an exciting organization. They know how to put a good baseball team together. They just don't have the draw on the fans. So even for the playoff games, I think it's a tough draw. So putting them in a market where they can excel, not Florida, because even like Arizona. There's no Diamondback fans in Arizona. They're all, Cub fans or people from Milwaukee or people from the Midwest that are moving south to retire. That's what they are. They're not like indigenous Arizona Diamondback fans. And that's part of the problem is that you get these other teams that they're more interested in. But I agree. The way the Rays do things, it just kind of blows my mind. We talked to Jeremy about it and it's like, I don't know how they do it. That's a great model. I wish every team could draft like them and put players out like that and act like a farm system for other teams, but also win. They do a very good job of producing other teams' talent.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been renderings of that stadium. So that's the third franchise probably within the last 4 months that there's been a rendering of a stadium, of a new stadium. So Athletics, White Sox, and Rays. So all of them are really cool concepts. It would probably help drive up traffic, at least people creating a spot or being in a more busy location where people would ultimately maybe just attend games just because it's something to do on a Saturday night or a Friday night. But then having the atmosphere around it. But again, I mean, putting a good product on the field is also very important. So we'll kind of see where that rolls. We'll touch on it in the future, but there's that list of expansion teams, not moving teams, but expansion teams. MLB talking about adding 2 more teams to the list. There's lots of very interesting cities on that list too. It'll be exciting to talk about that as we do a little bit more research. There's a cool ESPN article out there that kind of breaks down 10 to 12 different cities for expansion, and some newer cities and some older cities that have had teams already. But yeah, it's just cool stuff. Cool to see the design minds come together and the logistics minds come together.
Maybe selfishly a Western Michigan team. Is that?
Oh, maybe. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening, but making the trip across the state to Detroit's not super far. Our state's not super wide. You could get from one end to the other in like 2.5 hours. It'd be cool, but I don't see it happening.
No. I said I enjoy being close to the major league if I want to, and I don't go to nearly as many games as I thought I would being close to one, but it's definitely a perk. All right, well, let's dive into we're going to recap some of our fan favorites that we've been doing for the last 4 months, probably. I don't know exactly how long we've been doing it, but we've been doing it for quite a while, probably since Joe in episode 9 was the first time.
After Joe, actually.
I think
Joe, we talked about some teams and some players, but he was not part of I wish he would have been a part of but we started in week 10, and we did have several guests contribute. So I went back through and I watched all the episodes near the end, just to kind of grab that. And it was super cool to hear just the explanations and the players and the reasons why and why people connected to each player. So we do have starting pitcher and DH, which we have not done yet. But what I'll do is I'll kind of read through the list, and then when we get to starting pitcher and designated hitter, we'll make our selections for those so we can round out the whole thing. Sure. So we'll start behind the plate. So that week we had Jeremy Weicker on. Jeremy was a catcher in high school. It was really cool to hear he picked some guys who I was very surprised that he picked them. He's a big Cardinals fan, and Yachty was an obvious choice, but he was not who he picked, which is interesting. So for the past, for myself, Jason Varitek from the Red Sox, Brandon Joe Mauer from the Twins, and then Jeremy Yogi Berra, relation, and then Mike Matheny, longtime Cardinal catcher, tough guy is how Jeremy described him.
Horrible manager.
Yes, someone that you love to hate, but interesting choices. And then present, I selected the Phillies JT Realmuto. Brandon selected recently retired Buster Posey. We had a very nice conversation about Buster Posey and what he meant to the game and his legend in college at Florida State. And then Jeremy picked Mr. Ironman Salvador Perez, who just continues to catch games despite losing his mobility, but just continuing to be a solid dude and a great ambassador for the game. So that was a cool one.
Yeah. Joe Mauer, I would say, to cap off too, probably one of my favorite players ever. Yeah. Glad he got in the Hall of Fame. Also, one of my favorite autographs I ever got. We got him in Cleveland. That was a very cool experience because Justin Morneau blew us off because he just won the MVP. But Joe Mauer was like, "Oh yeah, I'll sign for you and Chris Stilo because Chris Stilo got every autograph known to man."
Yes.
So that's probably one of my favorite in my collection.
Yes, and great individual. Is one of the best to ever play, and one of the best guys to ever play as well. Just great person. First base. We both had two players. Both of our first selections were Derek Lee, Cubs, Braves, Padres early in his career, Marlins. Probably my favorite Cub of all time.
The best opposite field hitter in MVP baseball 05 is Derek Lee.
Great selections. And then my second guy was Mark Teixeira. In particular, Texas Mark Teixeira, not Yankees Mark Teixeira. And then your second one, which is also one of your favorite players of all time, is Prince Fielder. Milwaukee Brewers, Detroit Tigers, Texas Rangers. The conversation surrounding Prince was just super cool, and like I even myself just the feelings that I got remembering how he was as a player and how dynamic and how just game altering he was.
Probably the first super prospect that I ever was excited to go see, and I remember the first at bat I saw him take in 06 when he came up, and it was just like. He was wearing really tight pants, and then by the end of his career, he was wearing really baggy pants. But like, it was just one of those things. It's like, oh, this guy's here and he's huge, and he's like. Mm-hmm. I thought I saw him hit a couple homers, but yeah, that was definitely Prince Fielder. For sure.
And for somebody who's not a prospect guy and doesn't get hyped on prospects, that was very big for you to be like excited about somebody coming up. Yeah, another guy whose career ended way too soon. He had a lot more left in the tank, but we'll always remember just the mammoth home runs and just his energy, especially with Milwaukee. Fun one. First base was kind of, I feel like it was a little bit lukewarm, especially for players right now.
Yep.
We both kind of came to the conclusion that we really liked Freddie Freeman, because who doesn't? But other choices for you, I mean, obviously Anthony Rizzo, not so much the guy right now, but just growing up, like he is still a current player and he's going to play for several more years. But more so on the Cubs, you were more hyped on Rizzo, as you should be, because again, great Cub, just an overall awesome human being. My other guy was Matt Olson. Not really that I don't like Matt Olson or that I don't get excited about him. I think he's a really great player. I liked him on the Athletics a lot more than I do on the Braves. I do like the Braves roster. I like that he had an MVP type season, and that he hit a lot of bombs. But I don't know. I just wasn't as excited about first base for some reason.
Something to think about, and I heard it this week when I was listening to the radio. The reason why we vividly remember some of the things from our childhood, especially with sports, is because it's so important when we're that age. We're so hyper focused. Like I could tell you, the at bats from that 2003 playoff run when the Cubs lost to the Marlins eventually. Like I was so entrenched in it because that's all that mattered. Nothing else was important. And as you get older, there's so many more important things going on in baseball. And it's still fun. It's still cool. But I think that's why some of these current day guys, it's like it's harder to relate to, or it's harder to get attached to, because it's like this doesn't matter as much anymore. Yes, if the Cubs win the World Series again, I will remember every pitch of every whatever and us screaming at Joe Madden in 2016 for pulling Kyle Hendricks with 60 pitches, right? Like I will remember that vividly, and if they do it again, I'll remember the guy who throws the pitch. But I can't tell you who won World Series MVP 3 years ago.
No.
I don't know who it was. If it was Jorge Soler, then I already said it. But like it just because it doesn't matter anymore. So I think it's when you're like, oh, I didn't connect with Matt Olson, that might be part of it. It is not as important. Or you're working, you're tired.
Exactly.
There's other things going on besides that.
Yeah. Moving on to second base. Pass for me was Dustin Pedroia, second baseman for the Red Sox. Brandon, there were a few guys that I thought he was going to pick. He ended up picking the guy that I thought he would pick, and that's Brandon Phillips. Former, I believe he was a Cardinal at one point, possibly when he was younger,
Indians.
but mostly for the Indians, not Cardinals, Indians, but Reds, perennial Gold Glover, always on the Web Gems. He was an exciting, dynamic player, and it was always fun to just admire the glove work with BP.
Yeah. Also with Ryan, Ryan geeked out over meeting Dustin Pedroia recently, so that was funny to hear his wife kind of like, oh yeah, Ryan like didn't even want to say hi. He was like, no, you gotta go say hi. So just it's when you can meet someone as cool as that you're that into. Again, I like Dustin Pedroia too, but that's very, very cool, fun experience.
Yeah, and he treated me exactly like I thought he would treat me, and his demeanor and his swagger was exactly what I thought it would be. Like nice guy, but not like that bubbly, looking to sign a bunch of autographs, like taking pictures with everybody. Like he's got that edge to him. Like, hey, I got crap to do. Like, get your picture and get to your seat. Like, that's kind of how I felt. But like, that's kind of how he played the game though. Like, he's not that super warm person. He's got that edge to him. He's always been that guy who had something to prove.
What did David Ortiz think his name was?
Pee-wee.
Pee-wee.
Yeah. He said, who the F is Dustin? He's like, that's my name. That's my name, man. I thought your name was Pee-wee. Yeah. So anyways, present day, unanimous across the board was Nico Horner. And for obvious reasons, the guy is just one of the best, and he's just he's a business as usual guy, but approachable. He's very unique in his own way. He's not afraid to say what he thinks. I love that he goes on the radio and talks to people. Like, that's amazing too. Like, I would love to hear more of his segments. Like, that's awesome.
If they have him on this season again, it's like every Wednesday at 2:00 or 3:00 or whatever it is. It's fantastic. Like, I guarantee they're going to do it again because he's just such a good segment. Yeah. And I have my new Nico Horner jersey, which I didn't even know I wanted, but I wanted. But I wore it to church last week, and this guy, the worship guy, goes, I'm a Cub fan, but he wears a Brewers hat 'cause he's like, I don't like catching flack. He goes, I appreciate you. I'm like, thank you. I had my Nico Horner jersey on, and I had a Cubs hat, and he goes, this is yes. Like, he stopped me after this. I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Yeah.
This is all the vibes. It's a cool jersey too. Yeah. It's a cool jersey. It's the blue. And Horner's a cool player.
It's last year's model because it doesn't have the tiny letters, so it's perfect.
Yep. It's perfect. It's perfect. Glad you enjoyed the gift. Mm-hmm. Next we move on to shortstop. That was a week where we had another guest on. We had Sean Harling, director of baseball ops for University of Oregon, who they're kicking some butt right now, which is great. They're winning some games. They're winning some series. Looking good doing it too. I'm wearing my USC baseball shirt. I'm going to have to request some Oregon baseball gear, or at least a
swag bag,
some tips as to what to buy. What's a cool shirt? I'll have to touch base with Sean on that. But
a white Nike shirt, Sean, plain.
Yes,
that's all
yes.
you
get. Sean's selection was Troy Tulowitzki, and great conversation about him and just I think he said he had the Tulo modeled glove too. Yeah. And yeah, big Tulo guy Sean is, and honestly one of the great, just bigger shortstops. Could do a lot of fun things, and like we kind of talked about him earlier in this episode. Funny enough that just didn't get enough Tulo, didn't get enough prime Tulo, non-injured Tulo. Moving on to Brandon's selection, picked one of the big three shortstops from the 90s, picked Nomar Garciaparra, Red Sox, Cubs, Dodgers. Great pick, and I followed suit with Derek Jeter, which again can't go wrong with those guys. It's hard to pick a guy who you liked more than the other. Just again, class acts and played the game the right way, and wanted to win more than anything.
Yep.
Present day, for Sean, like he didn't even say the guy's name, just how he described the way that he played the game. Fast, dynamic, smooth criminal. Trey Turner was his pick. Mr. Captain America. Nothing rigid about that guy. He doesn't touch the ground when he slides. No. He's smooth with it.
As bad as I wanted Trey Turner, I love Dansby Swanson. I know that's why I picked him, but I'm like, now that we have Dansby, especially for the price, I'm like, yep, that guy. Yep.
For sure. Your selection was Dansby Swanson, which goes without saying. Yep. Like, also smooth. Also a gamer. I hope they continue to surround him with talent so he can maybe take a little bit of pressure off himself, get the bat going a little bit more.
You know what? His bat was what his bat is, though. I think that's just what his bat is. He's a 260 hitter, and I'm okay with that.
Well, he hit less than 250.
But what's the difference? 10 hits, 12 hits, 13 hits? Like, what's the difference?
I just want fewer strikeouts when it matters.
Sure.
Like, that's something we can hope for.
I want him hitting 8th, because then it doesn't matter. Then you don't expect anything out of him. That would be great. 7th or 8th, He hit 9th on the Braves. Think about that.
Yeah. Yep. And he drove in 96 runs in his final year with them.
Yep.
My selection was Mr. Bobby Witt Jr., who I have a feeling is going to be a dark horse for the MVP. I think he makes huge strides forward, and I think if he stays healthy, this is going to be his best year yet. And I would put that down too.
Bobby Witt for his fantasy drafts. Okay.
Yeah, right. If he's available, I thought about taking him last year, and if he's there,
I haven't seen the rankings yet. If he's up there, he might be your first pick. So
Acuna's
out too. He has some knee problems, so careful, people.
He does. Yeah, I mean, I'll probably end up getting a bull crap pick like 11th or 12th, so I'll have to really make the most out of my.
Oh, so you get the double pick in a row. Don't let Ryan.
Yeah, it's tough though. It's tough.
Ryan's playing his tiny violin because he's finished in the top 3 for the past 7 seasons.
Yeah, I play to win now. Yeah. I don't have as many rings. Hey, Mr. Ryan Vino said it's all about the rings, man, and I only have 2.
Well, they're fictional because mine didn't show up in the mail.
They didn't show up in the mail?
No.
Okay. All right. Moving on to third base. Guest Jessica Kleinschmidt, multimedia A's personality, podcast extraordinaire, Oakland A's fanatic. Miss Jessica picked the person who made her fall in love with the game, Mr. Eric Chavez, for the past. Hit a home run her first ever game that she went to, the Coliseum, and that is where her professional baseball fandom began, and ultimately her ascent to a career in the game too. So great pick. Was a guy who was always winning the Gold Glove as well. Just fun player. Like you talked about a couple minutes ago. You just had these players who captured your attention during that time, and that was all that mattered. And Eric Chavez was one of those guys. I mean, fun guy to watch, fun guy to root for. Guy you'd want to root for.
That was one of the first autograph cards I ever pulled in a pack of baseball cards too.
Yep.
That was always the one that, like, because we would sit with Chris Stilo again, like in the basement, like flicking through. It's like, oh, you got the Chavez. I'm like, yep, I got the Chavez.
Yep. Great player. Moving on to Brandon, Mr. Mike Lowell, Red Sox Mike Lowell. Yeah. Eyebrows for days. Class act for days. Great baseball player.
Yep.
Great Marlin, even better Red Sox, was a force in that 07 lineup. That team was stacked, and Mike was right in the middle of it. Huge fan of him. Would have liked to have a few more years of him, but he was too busy winning World Series with other teams earlier in his career. But just again, played the game the right way. Great player. I'm glad that you selected him because he's one of those guys. He's like a tweener. Like, you forget there are just like, and when I say tweener, these are guys who are just incredible baseball players, but just not quite Hall of Fame caliber, but arguably could be. I wouldn't be upset if he was in, or think he was undeserving if he was put in there.
If this was the NFL, he'd be in the Hall of Fame because they put everybody in. Because baseball is so particular with the way they put people in.
Yeah.
Did he talk to the media enough? I don't know. Right.
That seems to be the question. It's just like, and we even talked, and we'll get to this a little bit when we get to left field, because it was a conversation that we had with Ryan Vino about just some of these guys. Like, there's so many really good players, and the guys, like, they just don't get the accolades, and just because they don't get the accolades doesn't mean they weren't a great player. So you just have a lot of those guys who it's like, man, he was an excellent player. How is he not in? He was an excellent player. How is he not in? So you just kind of go through the Rolodex. I think of guys like Garrett Anderson. I think of guys like Darren Erstad. I think of guys like Kenny Lofton. Like, I think of all these players who are just exceptional, and they're not going to be in the Hall of Fame.
There's those guys from every generation though that just they're good, and at the time it seems like they're the best. But the numbers are like, okay. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Really good. It's the Hall of Very Good. And then my pick, I fanboyed over my guy, Michael Young, as always. If anybody is ever feeling generous, if you could find like a white Texas Rangers Michael Young jersey or a red Michael Young jersey, I would take it. I would take it. If that's write that on the Christmas list. If anyone's feeling generous, I would take one. If you could find one.
Check the old eBay here.
Yeah. I'll just keep it up there. That's a future gift idea for any inquiring minds. And I would wear it. I'd wear it to work probably.
Ooh, the vest.
Yes, I don't know if I'd do the vest. I couldn't do the vest. I do have some red like performance like undershirts that I could do. I'd sure. Probably opt for the regular jersey though.
That was also one of the things that happened this week was they got rid of the last vest jersey. I can't remember who it was. It was the Rockies or whoever, but the vest has died, which is sad.
The vests were killer.
Yeah.
Like the vests, there were so many good. Well, I sent you that post on Instagram with all the vests. I'm like, dude, that was just prime 90s baseball. Awesome.
Yep.
Great. All right. Shifting to the present, Jessica selected Matt Chapman for obvious reasons. Why would you not? A's Matt Chapman, but also now Giants Matt Chapman, and before that, Blue Jays Matt Chapman. Just good player. Mm-hmm. Great glove. One of the greatest gloves that you'll ever see. Great pick. Brandon shifted over to Nolan Arenado for obvious reasons. Same with those two are in the same sentence when it comes to the glove. And again, dynamic offensive player also, Arenado. And then mine was the Bulldog, J-Ram, Jose Ramirez. Goes without saying, he's a ball of energy, ball of power, just lives, eats, and breathes baseball, fun player. I would love to have him on a team that I am a fan of. Yeah. Great players. Shifting to left field, Mr. Ryan Vino was our guest. Mr. Astro got a lot of cool insights about that organization, and just wonderful to get to talk with him again. It had been years. Just a great human being. Love the guy. Really look forward to seeing him again one day. I know we will, but very excited that he gets to work for this organization in Houston. His left fielder of the past was a very recent retiree. I actually looked at the remaining free agents, and it kind of breaks down like, hey, they were on this team last year, they're on this team this year, and this is the deal that they signed. And the guy that he picked was still on the list, but it said retired. His guy was Michael Brantley, which fantastic pick. He said probably one of his favorite Astros, which he didn't spend his whole career with the Astros. Spent a few years with them, but just shows the impact that he made while he was in Houston. Professional hitter in every sense of the word. Mikey Smooth is his nickname, and that's what he was on the diamond. Just professional. Didn't get nearly enough praise for the things that he did in the batter's box, and also a heck of a fielder as well. Fielded the position well in Cleveland and in Houston. So great pick on that end. Brandon's pick was his favorite player of all time, Mr. Eric Burns. Another guy goes without saying, a guy who Brandon wore 22 because of, and the reason why you wear that jersey is because of what he did. Just going all out, doing whatever he needed to do. Was never the most popular guy by any means, but always played the hardest. I don't think you could really keep him out of a conversation of guys who played the game the hardest. Was always dirty, always diving, always doing whatever he could. So Mr. Burns was a gem, and he still is. His podcast is great too. Yep. He's very authentically himself, which I love.
Yeah, he's got a good book on coaching as well. It's called Let Them Play, which if I can get a copy, I would probably get. It's just sold out everywhere. But it's like a coaching guide. It's like how to not overcoach your kids. I'm like, yeah. So interesting. Yeah, very, very interesting take. Yeah. Also, though, his Little League team includes another Major League player as well as Troy Gloss's kid. So it's pretty easy to let your kids play when they have 3 big league kids on there. So let them play, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. Troy Gloss, good name. Another tweener. My left fielder of the past was Manny Ramirez. Hard to pick a guy who was a better hitter during our generation. Probably the best hitter I've ever seen. Was as pure of a right-handed bat as you'd ever see. Just incredible hand-eye. When it comes to the offensive tools, had all of them. I mean, he could even run a little bit when he needed to. Should be in the Hall of Fame, but isn't for I think kind of some bullcrap reasons. But I mean, leaving him out is not really a smart move. We all know
there'll be a day when all those guys that should be in will be in. So
yeah,
you heard it here
and then what's that?
You heard it here first.
Heard it here. Write it down.
Right so far. So
yes. Shifting to the present, Ryan selected Kyle Schwarber as his left fielder, which I was a bit surprised. He was a White Sox fan growing up. His experience with Schwarber, what came from them playing against the Astros and just viewing playoff baseball. Like, this guy is not someone who you want to kind of screw up on. Like, you don't want to miss your spot because he will take you out of the stadium. When he is locked in, I mean, especially I remember when he was with Boston a couple years ago, like, he was locked in. You could not get the guy out. He hit over 300. His OPS was like 1,100. He was just clubbing the ball all over the place. When Kyle gets locked in, he's very hard to get out, and he hits moonshots. Like, he has some of the most unreal power that you'll ever see. Probably some of the best in history, just pure power. The ball sounds different off his bat. Love Kyle as well. I would like a little bit more consistency, a little bit more average, but to me, like, you're getting a hit 1 out of every 5 times, you're on base 1 out of every 3 times, and if that hit is a 3-run homer, it says a lot. And then he also plays good defense.
Today's game does not matter as much, so
doesn't matter as much. But we love average, but it doesn't matter as much.
It doesn't.
Brandon, your picks. You had a dual pick here. First one was a bit surprising, but I like the player a lot, was Stephen Kwan.
Yep.
I mean, great player. Doesn't have a ton of pop, but
high batting average.
High bat, yeah. He can hit. He hits some doubles. Plays really good defense. He's a starting left fielder for a professional baseball team, and he does it well. So that's a good one. And then your part 2 is more of a kind of ode to the past, and the guy who you hoped we just talked about him not that long ago. Kris Bryant was the other pick. Yeah. For obvious reasons, we have a soft spot for Kris, and we just want to see him healthy and happy and doing well because it's good for the game. And hoping that he finds some peace and a good stretch of games. We need some more Kris Bryant, some good Kris Bryant,
and a new team.
Yeah. Yes, and a new team. My pick, and he sort of bounced around from different positions because he can play all 3 positions well. In the outfield, that is Mr. Corbin Carroll for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Can't say enough about him either. I feel like I keep saying that, but like these are some of the best players, and that's why we pick them. And they're some of our favorite players. But so dynamic, so young, already won Rookie of the Year, has game-changing speed, can hit the long ball, plays excellent defense, has a decent arm. Just does all the things that you would need a young player to do, and he's going to be a cornerstone for that franchise moving forward. I'm interested to see how they evolve this year as a team. I think they're going to be a lot better than hard to be better than being in the World Series. Yeah. But I'm talking about regular season record. They signed Eddie Rodriguez. They signed, who else did they sign? They re-signed Gary L. They signed another player too.
I'm not for sure, but we'll see how Corbin Carroll does year 2. That'll be the interesting thing, is can he keep that approach when things don't go well? That'll be the catch. But all signs point to yes, because he has a good approach to the game. He plays hard. But we'll see how year 2 goes.
Yeah. Shifting over to center field, we had Ryan Noda on, first baseman for the A's. Great conversation. So blessed to have had so much of his time. And with him being a professional baseball player, I was most interested in hearing his take on current guys that he liked watching play, because they're now your peers. So that was kind of the thing I was looking at most. But knowing that he was a White Sox fan growing up, and he was also an outfielder, naturally he did gravitate towards 2 White Sox. One was Scott Pasednik, and the other was Aaron Rowand. Both very good players in their own right. I was not big fans of them when they were on the Sox. Scott Pasednik I loved on the Brewers. He was that speedy guy, stole 70 bases, played good outfield. And the White Sox I just didn't like. So he wasn't a player that I loved enough to where it's like, okay, well he's on the White Sox, but I still like him. But still cool to see him do well. And then Aaron Rowand, I thought was a very good outfielder, but I felt like he kind of milked things. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he just wasn't fast enough to get to some of those balls. But he was always diving. He was always laying out, which is good. But I'm like, man, if you were that good, you wouldn't need to be doing this all the time.
I appreciated Aaron Rowand on the Phillies, but yeah, you're right. It's kind of like Jim Edmonds. Like, are you just too slow to get there? But
because I don't see. I'm not even going to say this player because you picked him as your present player, but there are certain guys where I don't see them lay out very often. They just get to everything. And so I'll leave it there. You had a couple very interesting picks in the past, and I really like both of these players. One of them has been called overrated in some sense, and I don't really see that. So your first guy that you picked was Juan Pierre, which I thought was just a great little player, and he did everything that you needed him to do. Very fast, game-changing speed. Was not really a guy who walked a lot, but always hit the ball. He's a contact guy, wasn't a high strikeout guy. I loved him on the Cubs, but he was a pesky Marlin, pesky Rocky. Ended up being a journeyman at the end of his career, but fun player. I just remember the Cubs were in that struggle time when he was on their team around that time, and he got 200 hits. I'm like, wow, that's cool. He had 200 hits.
Juan Pierre's the last player to play. We talked about this. Play every pitch. He took every at bat in a season. He's the last player to do that, and it's been 10 plus years. So
and somebody called him overrated. I'm like, overrated? He had the most overrated 200 hit season. I'm like, what do you mean? How do you have an overrated 200 hit season?
People got on Juan Pierre because he didn't walk.
Yeah, but whatever.
Whatever. He had 300 and he had 200 hits. I don't know. What do you want from him?
Yeah. What else do you want from your leadoff hitter? He sets the table. That's what he does. He gets on base. He steals second. Base hit, he scores.
Javi Baez not taking walks is different than Juan Pierre not taking walks because Javi Baez is a lot of swing and miss. So when you're not getting on base and you're not getting hits, that's bad. When you're getting on base because you're getting hits, who cares, right?
Yes.
It doesn't matter how you get to first base. Just get to first base and steal the other 2 bags and you're fine.
Yes, for sure. Pick 2 for you was a guy that I think should be in the Hall of Fame. The body of work, all the accolades, Kenny Lofton. He needs to be in. He deserves to be in. I don't think he ever won a World Series, but it was not for lack of trying. He was on the right teams. They just didn't win. And it wasn't because of him. He was not the reason they didn't win. No. But high stolen base guy, high average guy, lots of extra base hits, lots of stolen bases, great defensive player, even into his later 30s, played a long time, played a lot of games. I am a big Kenny Lofton fan. That is a fun guy who was great to watch growing up and being an outfielder. It's like, man, you wanted to be just like him. Fun player, great pick. I was not expecting that from you, but it was a great pick. He's just, again, we grew up in the same house, so we watched the same players, and it's not hard to to fathom why you
that
picked
was
him.
That was probably more that 2003 season where I actually got to see him play. But yeah. He made such an impact on that team too. So
he did for sure. My guy of the past in center field was Johnny Damon. I mean, not much. That's another. I would take like a Johnny Damon like Royals jersey too. That would be a cool one. But yeah, just another guy who did not get enough accolades for the kind of player that he was. I mean, he was such a dynamic player. I think his only non-plus tool was his arm. He did not have a strong arm, but he got to everything. He was very fast. I think people don't remember Royals Johnny Damon, but he was a problem. Like he was a bigger, like he was taller. He had some power. He was very fast. He was stealing like 40 or 50 bases a year. He was a very high draft pick, prep Florida star out of high school. Just again, class act too. Loved him with the idiot squad with the Red Sox. Did not like him. Did not like seeing him win on the Yankees, but I'm glad that he as a person got another ring. But yeah, I mean, just again, great Red Sox. One of my favorite Red Sox ever. One of my favorite players ever. Liked that one. For the present, Ryan selected a former teammate of his who I am still he will bust out eventually when he gets the right opportunity. I thought he was going to get it in Oakland, but they ended up trading him. But five-tool talent, Christian Pache, who is an incredible outfielder, one of the best in the game, and I hope he gets the opportunity to show off because he has it, and he's just had some injury problems, which it's tough sometimes. But that was
again the players know who have skill, so take his word for it because they know who's about to click.
Yes, but it was cool hearing Ryan say that again, just one of his peers and one of his teammates, and he's always gassing up his teammates. He loves his teammates. He's the first guy to tell you how incredible they are.
But you're right. If he doesn't get the right opportunity and maybe he gets discouraged or maybe he loses motivation, he may never get that chance. So
he may never, your center field pick was the outlaw, Kevin Kiermaier, and I didn't want to spoil it too much, but Kevin Kiermaier is a guy where he's not diving all the time because he doesn't need to. He gets to everything. Well, when Kevin Kiermaier dives, he has to dive. Yeah. He doesn't do it for he.
I was going to say, spoil it. Go to episode 14 with Ryan Noda, and you can see all these highlights. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but Kiermaier, I mean, you said it, I think, in the episode, like, if he is healthy, he should win the Gold Glove. Like, there's no one better than him, and that is true. Like, he's plus, and there's no denying it.
I think going around the diamond, too, most guys I select are Gold Glove candidates as well because, again, Nico, Gold Glove. Dansby, Gold Glove. Arenado, Gold Glove. Stephen Kwan, I believe, Gold Glove. Kiermaier, Gold. Yeah. It's like they're all Gold Glovers, and that's part of my MO too. Is I like defensive players. So yeah, if he's healthy, Gold Glove.
Yeah. So my player, and we were kind of going not just center fielder. We were going general outfielder. So my guy is not a center field. My guy has played center field, but he's not a center fielder by trade. I don't know when the last time he played center field, but he's one of the best players in baseball, and that is Mookie Betts. Mm-hmm. I selected him for general outfield, not for center field. That was our episode was general outfield. Mookie can go without saying. He is the best, if not a top 2 player. But this year he's playing second base. So
I would imagine if you put Mookie Betts in center field, he'd probably be a Gold Glover there too. So
he would. He has hardware as a right fielder. He has multiple pieces of hardware as a right fielder, but can play everywhere and probably will one day. Yeah. He's my guy. And then last of the positions that we've already selected teams. This was another you and I solo trip. So right field. Your right fielder of the past was Mr. Cub, not Ernie Banks, Sammy Sosa. For obvious reasons, we'll harp on it again. Like, baseball was everything, and these players were larger than life because that is what our life was. And Sammy Sosa, while we were kids, that is the person that you wanted to be. Like, that was the person who excited you. That is who, no matter what you were doing, no matter how important what you were doing was, when you had that Cubs game on and he came up to bat, you were dropping everything to watch that at bat. Another player who, again, like, freak athlete, super strong for obvious reasons. But I mean, it was just, he was just strong too. Yeah, everyone was strong, but he was amongst the strongest. Just lightning in his bat, incredibly fast, great athlete.
Yeah. Here's gonna be the debate until someone gets in the Hall of Fame. You still have to hit that ball. I understand you're able to recover faster and you're able to hit it further, but you still had to hit the ball. He was still a really good hitter. A lot of strikeouts though. That's fine. Yeah. A lot of home runs.
Lots of home runs. Over 600 for his career. Fun player. One of the best. Great pick. My right fielder, I had a dual selection. First guy is probably one of my favorite players, top 5 player for me, is Vlad Guerrero. Aside from maybe Rod Carew, the best bad ball hitter to ever play. Didn't matter where the pitch was, he was always getting a bat on it. He did not strike out a lot either. With as wild of a swing as he had, he hardly ever struck out, which was just amazing to watch. And he was doing well and at the top of his game for pretty much until the end. His legs were the only thing that left him, and he was playing a lot of DH down the stretch, but never lost the bat, was always a force. Other guy was Ichiro. He's incredible human being, great ambassador for not only Japan but for the game. He's still showing up to Mariner spring training and playing catch with people, and he's showing up to high school girls games in Japan and pitching, and he's just having the time of his life in his retirement, and he's just doing everything that he wants to do. But on the diamond, what a force in every way. Didn't say much.
The more I see of Ichiro now, like, because there's like tapes that'll come out, or he'll like be like, "Oh, I was doing this," and you wish you would have seen it then, because it makes it funny. You're right. There wasn't a lot of footage on him. There was one. He was in like the training room, and he got a text message from this random number, and
it's
like,
Tom Brady.
Yeah, he's like, "Who the F is Tom Brady?"
He's like, "Hey man, it's Tom Brady. Love your game."
Yeah, and he wanted like a fitness tip or something. He's like, "I don't even know who this guy is," but it's little stuff like that that kind of makes you like, you already like him as a hitter and a player, but like there's I'm sure more of that stuff will come out.
But they're just things that you wish you would have known, because he just like you just said, and I said, he didn't say much, but you just see what a great, like, everybody loves him. Like, everybody loves him. You see like Shohei Ohtani is and will be one of the best to ever step on the diamond, but like he looks like a little kid, because he was watching him play, like approaching, like the first time he met Ichiro he just was like nervous and scared. It's like, and he's like, Shohei's somebody. So, I mean, yeah, it would have been nice to see that lighter side of him. I mean, I don't know if the language barrier had anything to do with that, but again, just very loved by the fans and all of his teammates. It's cool to see that now. I'm glad that we're seeing the footage come out. Yep. Very cool. Right field, you and I kind of picked the same corner outfield position. Corbin Carroll was your pick. Don't have to harp on him too much more, but not much more can be said. Just hope that he continues to build. The cool thing about him was that he's so good that, like, wherever he was needed, it's like, all right, well, you're going to start the year in left field, and we're going to have Gurriel DH, and then Alec Thomas is going to go down for a little while, so you're going to play some center, and then we're going to shift you over to right because Thomas is back, and we're going to shift Gurriel out there, and we're going to play someone else at DH. So just kind of went wherever he needed to go. But I think he might have been he was playing right field when we were at the games later in the season. But yeah, he could play anywhere. He could play anywhere in the outfield. Yep. My pick was Kyle Tucker for the Astros. Great young player. Yeah, I mean, great hitter, great fielder, big guy, fun player. Yep, no looking forward to him too.
Does not need batting gloves. He must do the Moises Alou thing.
He does not. He is a no batting glove guy, which you don't see a lot of those guys nowadays. But yeah, fun talent. So that kind of wraps everything up for what we've selected. Last positions we have are starting pitcher and DH. So let's start out past starting pitcher. Who do you got? There's a lot of them.
Nope, there's only one. Greg Maddux, 100%.
Greg Maddux,
100%
Mad Dog.
Maddux. And I don't need to say anything. I will just show you the baseball reference page. So if you're reviewing the screen, that's what we got. You don't need much more than the 23-year career and the numerous number of Gold Gloves. That's all you need. Greg Maddux, for especially how hard he threw, 86 miles an hour, pinpoint command, and people are like, oh, he was stretching the strike zone. Well, he was hitting his spot. And it wasn't Angel Hernandez back there at all the time, right? But if you can hit your spot and you can make hitters think that is a strike, that is what pitching is. And he did it so effectively. He was a huge part of the Braves. They should have won more in the 90s. They didn't. That's okay. He probably should have won more Gold Gloves, should have made more All-Star teams. The 1 year he won the Cy Young, he didn't even make the All-Star team. He had 20 wins. Don't know how that happens. I didn't look at that All-Star roster. But he's also a Cub, effective as a 38-year-old, coming back to the Cubs. That's the first taste I got, because, I mean, he got traded from the Cubs in 92, which was the year I was born. So I didn't experience the first round of Greg Maddux. But just the longevity of it and that he was still doing it at age 43 was really cool.
Mm-hmm. And the movement, like I watched, and it'll pop up if you follow a bunch of baseball accounts on social media. But there's the two-seam fastball, like it starts way outside and then it darts like right over the middle of the plate. Like the hitter is just frozen, like he didn't know it was coming. And like Greg Maddux, they said he had like a ball and a half on every side of the strike zone. But Greg Maddux threw a lot of strikes. Like he got the borderline ones because he hit his spot and he threw a lot of strikes. But the movement was there, and you never knew where the ball was going to be, but it was going to be near the zone.
There's so many incredible stats about his couple of seasons he had. The Greg Maddux complete game is pitching a complete game in under 100 pitches, and he did one in 86 pitches one time. And threw 15 balls.
Wasn't he in the 70s? Wasn't he in the 70s one time? Like 76?
Throwing?
Yeah.
Oh, pitches.
No, I'm talking about pitches.
It's possible, but you pitched an entire game, 9 innings, and you threw 15 balls. That means you were in the strike zone. Guys were swinging at it, and they still weren't hitting it, and it was not. In an era where guys were throwing 98, 97, like that was, Roger Clemens, Pedro Martinez, all these, fireballers. And he's like, nope. And just hit your spot every time. So it's so impressive, but also how deceptive it can be. Because I remember there's that video too where he's disguised as whatever pitching batting practice to Kris Bryant. And he's like, what is he throwing? I can't hit that. Like, he's like, okay, we're going to throw some. Oh, I'm the audio guy, but I'm going to come out and throw BP. And he's like, just make him look silly. Even from a batting practice point of view is hilarious. And it's just,
it is.
There's no,
and he's like, he's what, 50 something?
Yeah.
Like
he's 57 right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
he got invited he was helping his brother, who's the pitching coach for the Rangers.
Mike, yeah.
He was helping him last spring training, and I think he's doing it again. So I think he's going to get into the pitching game, which would be really interesting.
It would. We'll keep an eye out for it.
Yeah. Yep.
There's so many great guys from the past because it's like you look at Maddux, like you look at Randy Johnson, you look at Pedro Martinez, like Curt Schilling. There's so many guys who just captured your attention. Who do you think my person is?
Probably
I'm just gonna.
Probably Pedro.
He's not. He is in the conversation.
I mean, Roy Halladay. There's so many guys.
Yeah.
Cliff
Who
Lee,
who was I obsessed with
Roger
for like
Clemens,
my teen years?
Sandy Koufax.
I mean, I didn't get to see
Going.
Koufax play.
Lefty or righty? Lefty or righty?
He's a right-handed pitcher, like tough bulldog type guy.
Probably
Right-handed pitcher.
Not Roger Clemens.
No.
Kurt Schilling.
Jake Peavy.
Jake P. Oh yeah.
Jake Peavy was my guy for years, and when he was with the Padres, he was stellar. Like that's when he won his Cy Young. But yeah, he was just very he was elite with the Padres, and then he had some rough years and he had some good years. He ended up winning a couple World Series, one with the Red Sox, one with the Giants. But I mean, he won a Gold Glove. He was won a Cy Young, had a few All-Star appearances. He had a really nice year with the White Sox where he made the All-Star team. Then he got traded to the Red Sox, which I'm like, man, if we can get something out of him. He ended up pitching in the World Series. Just a tough player, like a really tough guy. Not a lot of people who are not avid baseball fans remember Jake Peavy, but he's a solid guy. I think he's doing music now. Like he's like a talent agent, like for music. He has like a record label.
That doesn't shock me. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, loved the guy. One of my most prized autographs was a Jake Peavy, Rich Harden, I think, autograph. Yep. Which was good. It was my sought after card. I remember looking at that card in the card shop several times and coveting it. And I got it. And neither guy ended up being. Rich Harden kind of flamed out, but Jake Peavy had something. Neither guy ended up being a Hall of Famer, but still a cool card. Still a guy I really liked. So Jake Peavy was my guy from the past. Yeah. How about present?
It's on the same train. It's a guy that I'm happy he's still a Cub. Kyle Hendricks. When he's pitching and doing the thing he's doing, it's so much fun to watch. When he's not and he misses his spots, he is batting practice. So, but he's a guy a couple years ago, I think during the COVID season, he came out opening day, pitched a complete game, shutout. And it's just like, and he's throwing 86, right? Again, same thing. Yeah. It's just, I appreciate you don't have to, put everything in every pitch to be effective. I think there's something to locating your spots and hitting them. And that was another guy. We had a chance to get his autograph in Minnesota and talk to him for 2 seconds. And he's like, yeah, man, I just got to hit my spots. I'm not doing that right now. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Like, just a very candid response to something I asked him. But saying again, I don't think my taste has changed for who I gravitate towards for pitching. And no. I would purposely buy a Cubs game when I knew Kyle Hendricks was pitching.
Yeah. And we've seen a lot of them.
Yep.
And I've never really seen him have a poor outing in person. He's the professor for a reason, and I'm glad that he's still on this team. And I hope that they get to experience more playoff baseball while he's around. He's the last remaining player from that 16 team. And yeah, just a class act, goes about his business. When he is pitching well and hitting his spots, there is almost not a more fun player to watch because that changeup is nasty and he's got so much movement on everything. I love when he drops that hammer curveball here and there, but that changeup is fun when he's on. Like it's a blast.
Yep. Absolutely.
My two pitchers, so I don't have a guy who's like for one of my teams. Like I've had a lot of guys in the past couple of years who've retired who I've really liked, or guys who have kind of faded off. These two guys are not new. One guy is newer to baseball and another guy has been around, but I've always kind of gravitated towards him because I like his stuff. First guy is George Kirby. George Kirby he played 4 years of college baseball in North Carolina. He went to Elon University. He was a first round pick. But he is only 2 years into his major league career as far as like being up, and he has done exceptionally well for the Mariners and they've played really well while he's been an upper member of the staff. My favorite thing about him, aside from the fact that he has an arsenal of pitches, he throws like 5 or 6 different pitches. He throws a lot of strikes, like lots of strikes. He has the Major League Baseball record for most consecutive strikes to start a game at 24, which he did against the Nationals last year.
Was that when Cal Raleigh was just calling fastballs?
What's that?
No, that was versus the Whites. Did you see that? There was a video of like most consecutive fastballs called in a game. It was versus the White Sox, but Cal Raleigh called. It was like 47 consecutive fastballs because the White Sox just couldn't hit it, and they showed it. It was like boom, fastball, 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 fastball.
Yeah,
because we were up by 7, and they couldn't hit it, so we just kept throwing the fastball.
Yeah, well. Yeah, I mean, he is definitely a guy who throws a ton of strikes, and he doesn't walk people. His strike. I looked at his stats. He had 172 Ks and 19 walks. Like, that is incredible. And then the year before that, he had 132 Ks and 22 walks. So he doesn't walk people. He throws a 2-seam, a 4-seam, a splitter, a knuckleball. He's got 2 different curveball grips, 2 different slider grips.
Yeah.
I'm just excited to watch him pitch. He's 26. The Mariners have an intriguing team. The top 3 guys in their rotation in Castillo, Kirby, and Logan Gilbert are really good. If they sign Blake Snell, that would be intriguing as well. Yeah. They're a sneaky team, and I hope that they make the playoffs. They've been really, really close these last couple of years. But yeah, George Kirby's 1. 2 is Kevin Gausman. I always liked him. He was a really good pitcher at LSU. Didn't really have a great start to his career with Baltimore. He kind of got knocked around a little bit, found himself a little bit, always had top-tier stuff. I feel like the last 4 years have been really, really good for him. He's 33, he's my age now. But with Toronto and with the Giants, he has had top-tier stuff, and it's shown. He's been elected to 3 All-Star teams since then. He's got a big arm, but relies heavily. I'm a big split-finger guy. I love watching that pitch as a complimentary pitch and a put-away pitch. It seems to be the hot pitch now. It was more of like an old-school pitch, the splitter and the forkball. Then it kind of went away for a while. The only guys who were really throwing it consistently were Kurt Schilling and Roger Clemens. And now it's kind of made its way back, and guys are really using that as a put-away pitch. Look at Senga, look at Gausman, look at Ohtani. Yamamoto, we'll see this year, throws one. Kirby throws one. There's a lot of split fingers in the game. And I mean, Mark Leiter Jr. for the Cubs. It's a fun pitch. I like guys who use that pitch.
Let me know how many splitters Ohtani throws this year.
Yeah, 0. It's funny. I saw this starting pitcher list, and they're like, "Oh, top starting pitching rotations in baseball." And then all the comments are like, "The fact that the Dodgers aren't in there is a joke. They have this guy." I'm like, Ohtani's not going to pitch this year. Glasnow's coming off an injury. Buehler's coming off an injury. Kershaw's starting on the IL. Yamamoto has never pitched an inning of Major League Baseball. Like, he's never pitched in the MLB before. So, yeah, I wouldn't put them up there. They're not until they prove it.
Nope, absolutely not.
All right. Lastly, designated hitter, passed, go.
Just say it at the same time. 3, 2, 1. David Ortiz.
David Ortiz.
Yes. I mean, batting practice in 2013 ALCS.
Whew.
He was so locked in. He was flicking the ball wherever he wanted. The sound off the bat, just pound. Every ball was over the fence. It was just so impressive. And again, batting practice is batting practice. No, this was a, exposition of how to hit a baseball. We were talking before we started about just how the DH has kind of evolved. And, when you're a hitter, all you can bring to the park is your bat. Dave Ortiz brought it, and he was kind of the new wave of DH after Edgar Martinez. And again, on one of our favorite teams, had multiple legs of his career. He was on that 04 team. He was on that 13 team. Was he on 18 too? Like, he was no. But like, he retired the year before. He was productive.
after hitting 330 or 320.
he was productive up to the end. Basically, he's like, my feet hurts so bad.
Yeah.
I can't do it anymore. It's like, okay, well, that's fair enough. But yeah, David Ortiz, very easy.
Nothing more needs to be said. He is the best, one of our favorite players of all time. Postseason legend, Hall of Famer. He is one of the best and deserving.
Yep.
What about present?
Schwarbaum.
Schwarbaum.
He's so confusing with his batting average. We've touched on him quite a bit already, but he just hits. I mean, 43 homers last year, and to have a 190 batting average or 180, whatever it was, but have the on-base percentage. You know, if you're not going to get on-base hitting, do it the other way, but have productive hits, and he sure does, and it's very exciting. The Cubs were trying to hold out and wait because Theo knew the DH was coming to the National League, and they couldn't wait long enough because they just had to move on or had to do something. They let him walk for nothing, but he has shown his value. He keeps getting on teams. He's a great player, great person, and great teammate. So keep hitting bombs. There for it. I will. I don't care what your batting average is. You're on contenders, so it doesn't matter.
We will always love Kyle. He's always will be our guy. And yes, I hope that he gets another one too, and I think he will.
Yeah.
I think he will.
Yeah.
My present player is JD Martinez. I have always been a big fan of him. He has had success with several several teams like Detroit, Arizona, Boston, the Dodgers. Like, the only place that he did not have success was in Houston, and I think he was just a little bit before the wave came in. I don't think they really gave up on him, but he didn't really find himself until he left there, which is very interesting because that is an organization that during that time was finding it. They were starting to find the players. They were building up, and they were doing all the right things. So like them missing on JD Martinez is a little bit of a, but I think he just needed a change of scenery, and then he really came into his own. With Boston, in particular, the 2018 season when they won the World Series, like when they got JD Martinez, I'm like, this is the park for him. Like, he was driving the ball to all fields. He was hitting doubles, hitting bombs, driving in runs. It didn't matter, and he didn't care about being a DH. He's like, oh, I'll play some outfield, but like I'm here to hit. Yeah. Always locked in. I remember seeing him like in the dugout, just watching film when he wasn't even paying attention to what was going on in the game as much, but watching film, wanting to be ready to help his team win and help and produce. But I hope that in this last leg of his career that he gets another ring, and I hope it's with the team that we like. I keep hearing Texas. I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Fit for him.
He was
slide into the DH role.
Yeah.
Like, just do it.
He was a really good hitter in Detroit, but the power numbers didn't carry because it's such a big ballpark. And he was hitting those power gaps. It's like, oh, here's JD Martinez highlights for the night, and he's hitting 2 doubles and whatever. But those are homers in other ballparks. He's a professional hitter. He will get signed by somebody, and if you slap him in that Texas lineup, we talked about it before though. You could stack all these guys up again, run it back, and they can come in third place in the division and make the playoffs. So you never know. But I think you put him on a contender, and he fits seamlessly. I think we've talked about he doesn't really fit for the Cubs for me because they have so many guys they need to try and get at bats, especially in April to figure it out. He would be a good signing for them in August.
Yeah.
Once you've you have some injuries, you're not really sure what your lineup looks like. You need a consistent bat in there. Yeah, he'd be great. But with the Cubs trying to figure out so many different spots, I think it's not a great fit for them. But there's plenty of teams that need a bat, and that's Texas. Again, Texas, we're going to write that one down. Texas makes too much sense, right? Doesn't it?
They do, yeah. Yeah. I mean, his resurgence with the Dodgers didn't really surprise me. No. Boston just stunk, and he was injured, and he lost his power. But part of it is just being on a team that really doesn't seem to care an organization that really doesn't seem to care. They're trading all their stars away. They're not making their current stars happy by putting talent around them. So him getting out and getting to LA and really like just returning to who he was, like that to me, I'm like that's JD Martinez. That's the guy.
Money is great. Baseball that matters motivates. And these guys lock in when the games are most important. So put him on a good team, see how he does. LA, obviously, clicked for him.
For sure. But yeah, great segment. It's cool to kind of go back and see who we picked and why. I'm glad that we stuck with it. It has come to an end, but it was fun, and I will keep this list in our folder just to reflect on every once in a while. But good segment.
Along with all of our prophecies for what's going to happen, just to recap: Kris Bryant to Atlanta and JD Martinez to the Rangers. So you heard it here first. That's what we got. Starting when we pick up in a couple weeks after baby's here, we'll have some probably real games to talk about. We'll have a fantasy draft probably to talk about in that time. We'll just baseball's starting to heat up, and we have a couple more Boris clients to sign. So 2 weeks, Scott. Can you get it done? We'll see. But until then, we'll be I'll be a little more tired. We'll be again expanding our roster. But we will see you guys soon. But until then, boots come in pairs.
Peace, y'all.